Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also rise to support this report, Mr. Speaker, as we examine it based on how the chair has moved the report. Mr. Speaker, when you look at the Pan-African Parliament, I believe at that time we had desires as Africans to see that we are back to the roots that our fathers started in terms of Pan-Africanism. And Mr. Speaker, the Parliament was supposed to help us to intervene in terms of protecting the rights of the African member states, deepening our relationships and bringing relevance in terms of the many struggles that we have, and especially poverty. And now when you look at the Parliament and look at the AU and the things that are happening, first of all, we just need to ask ourselves, looking at the richness of the African continent, and I'm hoping members who go to PAP are able now to really critique and be able to now look at what are the key issues that are affecting Africa and their different member states, where we believed that we shall have an economic growth. And if indeed this is a parliament that came in maybe when we looked at the European Parliament and we felt that that is what will happen, that inter-regional relations will be there. And even as we talk of the robust 2063, where we are talking about the African economies and growth and development and lead of transformation, but surely I believe it should start now, and it is this parliament that is supposed now to look at the heads of member states and question some of the issues that are happening. If you want to see Africa's GDP go up, then indeed we have to really work onto our agriculture, tourism, the blue economy, Mr. Speaker. And so, and even the brands that we are now facing on issues of climate change. So, Mr. Speaker, even as we support the report, I will say, like my fellow colleagues, that it is important also now, as we go, even those who are elected, appointed through our own parliament, that when you table to us a report, there's something that we need to read about now, the different member states. What are the challenges? Today we have Sudan that has just gone, Mr. Speaker, and if we were serious, PAP needed to have recalled itself to their parliament and talk about it, that we can't just lose a whole country. It's just going haywire. The same with DRC, and we are talking about the AU, and these are now, the most thing that is happening in Africa is that every place we're just talking about peace and security. Even in Kenya, we are still talking about the same, our bandits, our what. I think it is something in terms of regional integration and understanding these parliaments, we can have different resolutions coming from different, and even sanctions from the parliament, sending it to the AU and saying, we don't want to hear this from this country of Sudan. We don't want to hear. It's only the thing we hear, Mr. Speaker, oh, the foreigners have now decided to take the plane. What about the Africans? Yet we have a Pan-African Parliament that should be sanctioning and asking this country to stop some of these things. So the members who go there must also, as much as Mheshimiwa says they don't have teeth, you create teeth. These are politicians. Create that teeth and start questioning these heads of state, that if indeed the AU will just want to see a country go down to the dogs just because of internal and we cannot interfere, yet in the European Parliament they are there interfering with Ukraine and Russia, then why can't we as the African continent safeguard our own? We've seen how Libya has gone down. We saw how the Arab Spring just took many countries down. We cannot allow Sudan to just go like that. And at the end of the day, anyway, it affects all the regional countries that are there, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, even as we look at this, we have to now start pushing PAP to come up with clear recommendations, not recommendations on how they have gone through their resolutions, which are normal there anyway, Mr. Speaker. But what is this that you can sanction a country? I was expecting in the report, Mr. Speaker, to look at the devastation of Malawi, if indeed we are talking of, because they were just taken with climate change, yet within some of the resolutions that the African Union gave PAP was to now go and look at how we can mitigate climate change. But I haven't heard them say they visited Malawi and see what happened. A country that was not on an island, it's inland, but due to climate change, they lost 200 plus. It was important. It is important, therefore, even as we send our members, let us see also results, not just for us Kenyans, but also for our other countries that are there. And Mr. Speaker, it is always important. Even right now we are talking about hunger, we are talking about many other issues. But Mr. Speaker, when we talk of poverty, when you look at all the faces that we see on TV, on Al Jazeera, on CNN, you are looking at an African continent that is so rich but looks, it's so miserable, Mr. Speaker. And it is the members who go there instead of us accusing them so much. But they must create, we normally say when you go into any space, we as politicians, Mr. Speaker, you can never go home and find a vacuum and not fill it. And so if there is a vacuum in terms of issues, this parliament is able to fill. There are many issues in Africa you cannot lack what to debate, what to resolve, what to bring. And so when you are bringing a resolution, you are bringing a resolution that is binding, that will go to the African Union states. When we are going to the AU, you are able to stand firm and say, this was our report from the Pan-African Parliament. And therefore, we would wish to see a few changes. And the young people, they are there, they are committed, inspired that while we talk of Resolution 2063, that they will see these changes we are talking about. So, Mr. Speaker, and even the diaspora, with all that they are trying to, not just in Kenya, you see how they remit back home. What about other countries? So, Mr. Speaker, as I finalize, I think we want to see a vibrant Pan-African Parliament. When they say the 6th Parliament, it should be vibrant, it should have better resolutions that they will bring. We need a report that they need to go and hand over to our president and say, when you go to the AU, these are the things we felt you need to go and speak about. And the other members from the other states do the same, so that we can see why we have this parliament. And then going forward, even as we do different resolutions that we want to see them go through an election, we want to see them being supported fully. The same way with the EALA. Mr. Speaker, it is time now this House ratifies and bring the members of EALA to be part of the Parliamentary Service Commission. I have no idea why we should go through all that process and then in the end it goes, and now they come now through the ministry and all that. You've realized many of your members are the ones who come from this House, Mr. Speaker. So it's important to just ensure we ratify and let them be part of this House, even in terms of their remuneration and everything, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I just want to say we have Africa is a place where we can really transform the world. If we had tapped on the challenges that Ukraine is facing, it is Africa where we would have now be planting the wheat and all these things. But because of our different small boundaries that has come and are barriers in terms of trade, which is one thing I wish the Pan-African Parliament before the end of the year must be pushing each member state that open your boundaries so that we have free trade within the African continent. That way we shall start opening up our economies, building back our economies, building back the challenges we have faced post-COVID, and at that time growth will come and we will have employment for many. With those remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support.
Thank you, Honorable Beatrice Elachi, for those informative contributions. The Majority Whip